Welcome back, YouTubers, to my channel of an everyday life of an Aspie. For those of you who are new, I welcome you all. My name is Aspie Answers, or I'm classically known as just Aspie. I create videos about mental health and autism with tips and advice along with fun and games, and I advocate and educate about mental health and autism, along with also fun and games such as travelling with Aspie, baking with Aspie, some poetry and the like. So if you're into any of this and more, feel free to smash that subscribe button on the right hand corner of the screen and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any future updates or posts, or even follow me on my socials where I'm most likely to post. As you can see, then I'm now returning back to the intervention and therapies for autistic children. As we have covered a few, yet there are a few more. I would like to cover some more, obviously, before the end of the year. The ones that has been covered so far as an overview so far are as follows. For your introduction to intervention and therapies and types of interventions and therapies for your autistic children. There were two parts of the behaviour analysis therapy, or applied behaviour analysis therapy, I should say, and why is it bad for autistic children was the question that has come about. And that second part of it, that broken down to the two of it, was the controversy about behaviour analysis therapy or applied behaviour analysis therapy. And just recently I just done one on the developmental pragmatic social model. Before I begin this next topic, I want to put a disclaimer out there to you all. As I said, I'm no medical doctor. I am your normal Joe Blogs, so if you see anything out of the ordinary, please do seek professional help for yourself or your loved one, or seek an opinion for yourself or your loved one, because I don't forever condone self-harm. Okay, as I said before, many times before, many people may tend to question over and over again about the different types of treatments and therapies, and while I'm here, I'm hoping to discuss with you all to gain a clearer understanding. And in saying this also, just to let you guys to note that some of this research that I've done so far is based in the Australian side of the Department of these therapies and interventions, because here in New Zealand obviously we have only limited resources, so hopefully in the near future we will have more to come that will help us autistic children as well as autistic adults. Before I begin to open up this topic, I'm going to ask you guys a few questions for discussion. So the very first few questions are as follows. If you've done any of these treatments and therapies interventions, please comment below about your experiences with them. What was it like, the good and the bad? What did you learn from it? What did you not learn from it? What can you make yourself better for these interventions and everything else that has been introduced? So the very first question, as always, is you may be thinking is, what is discrete trial training? I'll insert a diagram right now about the definition and an overview of what it is. But just to be clear to you guys today, that discrete trial training isn't a therapy in itself, but a teaching technique used in some autism spectrum disorder therapies. A discrete trial training is based on applied behaviour analysis theory, which again I'll do an overview of a diagram inserting here right now so you can see what I'm sharing of the umbrella term of this, where it comes from. It involves breaking skills down to their most basic parts and teaching those skills to children step by step of the way. All achievements are rewarded, which encourages children to learn too. Sometimes child discrete trial training, or DTT, is often used as part of a broad ABA based approach. So who is discrete trial training for is used, that you're asking? One is typically used with children with autism spectrum disorder between the ages of 2 to 6 years of age, but however it can be used with people of any age. Discrete trial training, what is it used for? Obviously, as I said, it's used to teach many skills to children with ASD. These skills range from very simple to more complex, depending on the child's specific needs. For example, DTT, I will be abbreviating it down to you guys now, as well as maybe some other clinical terms, so basically you can understand me more. Hopefully, can be used to teach 1, speech and language skills, like those needing for a conversation. 2, skills needed for sign language or communication devices. 3. Daily living skills such as your dressing up, using utensils and following instructions from teachers or parents or whoever that is giving the set of instructions. And 4. Writing skills such as just writing the alphabet or writing their own name. Because it works on changing behaviour, DTT can also be used to teach parents how to manage children's difficult behaviours. Obviously, insert again, the advantages of discrete trial training. How is discrete trial training used in ABA therapy, you may be asking? This is one of the most common types of therapy that is used to treat ASD, as I said. DTT is widely adopted in both school systems and by many private practices as a parent, teacher or clinician working with kids on the spectrum. It will almost be impossible not to run into DTT at some point. The system is also used outside of autism treatment today to address behavioural issues associated with children, or everything from addiction to traumatic brain injury. Back in the year of the 1980s, however, Dr. Iva Lovis developed discrete trial training as a technique for working with children with autism. It's a primary component of the Lovis method, one of a number of different techniques applied behavioural analysis used to address behavioural issues associated with ASD. Again, another diagram hopefully to share this, what I'm sharing. Discrete trial training relies on the so-called ABCs of applied behaviour analysis, which is antecedent, behaviour, consequence. It's not a separate type of therapy from ABA, but rather just one of the many types of treatments rooted in applied behaviour analysis. However, key aspects of DTT is that it breaks behaviours down into very small discrete components and reinforces them methodically and sequentially to build up into one overall describable or desirable behaviour. Linking a number of separate skills together in this way is called chaining. With complex behaviours which, depending on the child, could mean navigating through a full school day or just getting through a bath without even a meltdown, as a classic few examples here. This helps avoid the problem of being unable to successfully reinforce all the little victories required to ultimately achieve a possible outcome. If a behaviour involves the many steps for a provided action to be acquired, waiting to the final step to provide a reward doesn't help reinforce intermediate steps or allow an easy way to correct any behaviours that miss the mark along the way. Discrete trial training provides a controlled way to isolate and reinforce behaviours that have complex antecedents or consequences, like how to behave at lunchtime in the cafeteria at school as a classic example. When you break it down, you might be surprised by the number of different small hurdles that need to be cleared during a 40-minute lunch break. Recognizing the lunch bell, going to the cafeteria, lining up quietly and getting a tray, finding a place to sit in the social chaos of the cafeteria, cleaning up after yourself and making it to the next class on time. Discrete trial teaching breaks it all down into individual steps, each one described and practiced with clear and discrete instruction. In its final phase, DTT then puts all these steps back together to form the complex sequence of events that together comprise a lunch break. There are 5 steps to each DT trial, however, as I said so, which I'll insert the diagram right now. Number 1, antecedent or instruction. 2, prompt. 3, response. 4, consequence for the response, either correct or incorrect. 5, interval between trials. Discrete trial training can also be used in cases where the behaviour is, however, not completely complex, but where being able to adopt the behaviours immediately would nonetheless be difficult using other methods of ABA. People on the low functioning end of autism spectrum, for example, might benefit from DTT for a behaviour as simple as asking some questions or asking someone if they want to play with them. Learning the sounds of each individual word or even conceptualizing play could each require a separate discrete trial. The therapist provides prompts to the patient designed to elicit the correct behavioural responses. When the therapist gets the response thereafter, a reward is offered to positively reinforce that behaviour. If the response is inappropriate, the therapist will gently correct the child and attempt the drill again. This activity is designed to shape the responses, providing guidance so that the prompts aren't simply seen as random antecedents, but as part of an overall structure of behavioural patterns. With this structure in place, many children are able to go on to manage their own behaviours effectively on their own. Unfortunately, DTT also led to some of the initial criticism of using ABA for autism therapy, since Lala's implementation originally included the use of aversive reinforcement such as yelling and electric shocks. This type of reinforcement was quickly abandoned for positive reinforcement mechanisms with appraisal, candy or a toy, or a desired activity like colouring or watching a video. There's a considerable amount of research showing that DTT therapy results in positive outcomes. In fact, ABA earned a lot of scientific stripes by proving itself effective in treating ASD during those DTT studies. All of this intensive and discrete therapy is time-consuming and can be exhausting for both the patient and therapist, which obviously will insert the consequences from what I'm reading from so you can follow through. For example, under ideal circumstances, the lowest method of DTT is performed at least 5 days each week for a total of up to 35 to 40 hours of therapy. This could be draining for anybody. Since much of this involves the slow and steady process of doing basic repetition around the targeted skills, it's often called table work and viewed as a fairly mind-numbing procedure. But the therapist will proceed with new skills at whatever pace the patient is capable of learning them. So this is mostly a criticism levelled by parents or other observers. The astute therapist will always make a point to move on to another topic or introduce breaks when they feel the patient is losing their focus. There are still criticisms of DTT within the ABA community, however, or just the autistic community in general. One early critique centered on the lack of validity in some of Lala's original experience using the system. Other points out that the technique is primarily instructor initiated and may lead to rote responses since the reinforcers are unrelated to the task at hand. However, most modern practitioners of DTT combine it with other forms of ABA, such as natural environment training, which work to alleviate many of these concerns. As a body of practice, ABA, including DTT, continues to be the most effective treatment available for ASD, as well as many behavioural issues not related to autism, however. As I mentioned before, this is a teaching technique that comes from applied behaviour analysis. It has its roots in learning theory, which has been or was developed in the early 1900s. Learning theory suggests that how people behave in any given situation is largely determined by their previous experiences or similar situation. As a treatment for autism spectrum disorder, DTT is typically associated with the Lala's program, which was developed in the 1960s with DTT as a central component. The ideas behind discrete trial training is based on the idea that you can teach any behavioural skill by breaking the skill into smaller steps, which makes it easier to master. DTT uses repetition, so children have plenty of opportunities to learn and practice new skills. DTT uses rewards or to encourage the children to learn and use new skills. This is based on the idea that behaviour that's rewarded will happen more frequently, whereas behaviour that isn't rewarded will happen less frequently. DTT technique suits children with ASD better than more traditional training methods. Another question you may be asking is, what does discrete trial training involve? As I said before, this involves using a basic procedure to teaching a new skill or behaviour and repeating it until the child has learnt that skill. The procedure involves giving us set instructions such as pick up a cut. If needed, you follow up the instruction with a physical or verbal prompt like pointing at the cut. And don't forever basically be too hard and be patient. You will then reward the success with praise and something the child may like. DTT can be a very time-intensive approach to learning and changing behaviour. It can involve many hours a day, as I mentioned, depending on children's specific goals. DTT can go on for several years. The level of parent involvement varies depending on the program or service that uses the DTT approach. The time commitment required for DTT depends on basically the type of program which is being used as well as children's specific needs. Although this technique can take a lot of time, research has shown this intensity can be critical to its success. The cost considerations of this to be known is depending on the type of ABA-based intervention or program it's being used in. It's likely that ABA programs using DTT will involve a high cost because they take a lot of time. The question is, you may be asking, does this training work? High quality research has shown that discrete trial training has positive effects on the behaviour of children with autism spectrum disorders. It's been found to even be more effective when combined with other ABA techniques involved. Training, anyone can practice this. Most ABA programs use DTT developed by psychologists and implemented by special education teachers, occupational therapists, speech pathologists, registered behaviour technicians, and so many other aides. Parent education training and support involvement. If your child is in an ABA program that uses DTT, you usually need to play a role in this as well. Training might be available depending on the ABA program. Obviously, where you can find a practitioner that studies this or has actually got the qualifications is basically there is a behaviour analysis certification board that has a list of certified discrete child training providers. You can also find professionals by going to where I found some parts in Australia, which is Speech Pathology Australia, Occupational Therapies Australia. If you're interested in DTT, it's also a good idea to talk about it with your GP or one of the other professionals working alongside with your child. You could also talk with your NDIA planner, NDIS early childhood partner, or NDIS local area coordination partner if you have one of these. There are many treatments for ASD, however. They range from those based on behaviour and developmental to those based on medicine or alternative therapy. This quickly ends on the discrete trial training. As I said before, I end this again to throw those questions out there. One, with this, if any of you here has heard of this or done this kind of intervention therapy, what was it like for you? 2, share the good and the bad. 3, and maybe what you learned from it, along with what you can do better for you if it didn't work for you in the first place. So without further ado, guys, basically, don't forget to smash the like, comment below. Feel free to follow me on my social medias, as well as also sharing these videos around so we can gain a better understanding and spread awareness or what have you. So without further ado, guys, thanks for the support and thanks for watching. Do what love you do. Until next time, Aspie signing out, and I'll see you again soon. Ciao for now.